You are listening to Unequaled with JC Carroll and Ajay Salveson. But first, our friends, the Painted Roses.
Hi, this is Karen Nielsen with Guild Mortgage in Logan, Utah. Beyond great rates, we're committed to ongoing customer service even after your loan closes. We want you to experience knowledge, communication, and amazing customer service for a lasting relationship. Make Guild Mortgage your trusted partner.
It's another edition of the Unequal Podcast. JC Carroll and Ajay Salveson. Thanks for joining us, however, wherever you're doing so. Big thanks to Cole Stalker and the Painted Roses for their introduction into us. Apple Music and Spotify. You can find the Painted Roses there. Big thanks to our sponsors where we are at today, Guild Mortgage. You can get your mortgage taken care of by Carrie Nielsen and her team. Make sure you get a hold of them and let them take care of you and get your mortgage settled. I've told you before, JC, and I'll say it again. Like, I sat next to you and I still get kind of like awestruck because people come in like, man, you can do a podcast with JC Carroll? I was like, I mean, yeah, and I don't really think anything of it until we're sitting next to each other, and I'm looking over, and I'm like, gosh, JC Carroll. So then you gotta get tongue-tied. This, I don't think I'll ever be more nervous than I am right at this moment, because who I'm sitting with today. Not only you, an Aggie Hall of Famer, All-American itself, and of course a jersey hung in the Spectrum rafters, but another guy who will be in the Hall of Fame in the athletics, and I believe I think he qualifies in his first year. His name will be on the ballot, which is pretty awesome. He was an All-American, had All-American stamped all over his butt in 2014. Set records, actually fourth most tackles in Mountain West Conference history in a single season. Fifth most in Mountain West Conference history for total tackles. Third all-time in a season for solo tackles. Second all-time in total tackles in school history in a single season. Zach Vigil joins us here on the Unequal Podcast. No one more unequal than him. At one point, I think Utah State could have been known as Linebacker U. You had Bobby Wagner, you had Gallagher, and you had Nick and Zach Vigil. And Zach, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast. This is really a cool opportunity for me. I'm sure JT's like, yeah, I know Zach Vigil's another deal, but for me, it's incredible. But thank you for being a part of it.
Well, thank you guys for having me. Happy to be here.
What's I mean, well, I guess we can get to your life after football and all that, but what was life leading up to football for you and your brother, if I may ask?
Yeah, that's a funny question. So, JC and I were just literally talking about the horses and stuff like that. So when we were growing up...
By the way, all that information went way over my head. I just tuned out completely.
That's okay. So before, when we were growing up, we wanted to be bull riders. My brother and I wanted to be bull riders. We loved horses. We wanted to rodeo. We had a cousin who's actually a retired colonel from the Air Force that high school rodeoed. He went to Korea, was deployed to Korea, did Korean rodeos, and got us into bull riding. We wanted to be bull riders. And he taught us how to ride calves and sheep and all that stuff. And we literally, we pursued that, and we would miss, when we played all the other three sports too, baseball, basketball, football, right? But we would miss football practice to go to rodeos and ride bulls. And what caused all this is my dad and mom had the movie 8 Seconds, which when you grow up, you realize it's a love story with bulls in it. But when we were kids, we thought it was all about bull riding.
Oh, I never heard of the movie. Freaking Lane Frost. Let's go.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Yes.
Ajay, expand your horizons.
Dude, you've got to see
8 Seconds.
One of the best movies ever. My grandpa fell in love with that movie. He'd cry every time. To be honest,
Why would cry every time?
Dude, I can still quote the whole movie. I'll give you the poem at the end. I'll give you the poem that he gives you. Flying into Cheyenne. I'll give you the whole poem at the end. Funny story about that. Me and my brother were driving back from a hunting trip in Texas, and it had to be 2 a.m. We're just driving in the middle of nowhere, Texas, trying to get to the next motel. And I pulled up the poem, dude, and we rattled that thing off for an hour and a half. We were so tired we couldn't remember. We woke up the next morning, we both could remember the whole thing and could recite the whole thing. That's awesome.
So bull riding, is that what you said?
Bull riding, Lane Frost. True.
Well, man, I've gone in 60 seconds.
He went, he was going to Cheyenne, the daddy of them all, and that's where his life ended. He's tragic.
Yeah. What? Sounds horrible.
So Lane Frost was a world champion bull rider, and he ended up getting killed in Cheyenne. So now when you watch people ride bulls, they all have vests on. Cody Lambert was a partner of Lane Frost, had a traveling partner with him, and he developed the vest. So what happened was The bull hit him behind the rib with his horn, broke a rib, and it punctured his lung.
Ooh.
And he died because of it. And so now both the bull riders wear vests. So
That sounds inspiring, you guys. Great movie.
no, it's a great movie.
Yeah, you got to watch it. Belen Frost, Tuff Heaterman, all these cowboys that were unbelievably good. You got a Baldwin brother that plays one of the actors there, but great movie. All right, so you were going down that road. Now you're all right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So we're riding calves, riding bulls, winning rodeos, all that stuff, and people kept telling us, like, you guys are going to be too big. My dad was 6'2", my mom was 5'7".
That was my next question. I was like, those bull riders I see aren't 6'2".
Right. So
265.
well, that fortunately I never had to make that crossroads, I guess. So when I was 12 or 13, so we didn't ride for that many years, I guess, but when I was 12 or 13, I came off a steer and fell on my head and kind of went temporarily paralyzed, took an ambulance ride, and that was a big enough scare for my mom to say, you guys are done. You're done riding rough stock. You're just going to play football, basketball, baseball, and all the other stuff. So at that point, my rodeo career sadly came to an end. And, just, played football and baseball and basketball, and then eventually wrestled in high school and junior high. And
Did you know I was a clown in a rodeo, guys? I did clown.
No, I didn't know that.
I have never ran for my life like I did with these big, massive boots on, and I'm only 4 foot. And I'm like 100, soaking wet.
you should have had cleats on. That's what I would have been
Dude,
wearing.
I should have been wearing... Oh, I didn't know any better. I was just like, okay, I'm a clown. Like, what do you want to do? Crack some jokes? Want to do some cartwheels? No. Instead, your freaking job is to be out there and distract the bull and let him stab you instead of the rider. Like, it made no sense to me.
Yeah, you were doing an important job. In the cowboy world, who did you look up to at the time?
Oh, dude, we used to go behind the chutes at freaking. I think had signatures from like J.W. Hart and Ty Murray.
Ty Murray is the one that came to mind for me.
Ty Murray. So my second grade teacher, she was Miss Rodeo Utah's aunt or something like that, and she ended up getting me a bunch of posters signed by Ty Murray and all these other things. So growing up, I had Ty Murray's signature all over my wall.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ty Murray, he'd always I sit and watch rodeos with my grandpa, and he loved him. He's like, he always lands on his feet.
Yeah,
He always lands on his feet.
he was incredible athlete.
It was.
And those guys, like, yeah, they get a lot of credit for being tough, but they're great athletes. The balance that those guys can display is incredible.
Yeah, like, I have horses and I do some horseback riding. I don't consider myself a horseman by means, but I watch even the pickup men, the way they ride around horses and they go pick them up. Like, I sit on a horse. I'm a pretty good athlete, but I feel very uncomfortable a lot of times when those horses start moving.
Dude, yeah, the pickup guys, they're like, when I go to rodeos now, I love watching just the pickup men because they're ballsy dudes and they just get right up in there with kicking horses right in their face, trying to stay out of getting kicked. Like, and people don't see a lot of that because they're not into horses necessarily, so they don't know the real dangers when those guys are doing it. But they're incredible.
Yeah, I agree. And the horsemanship, the bravery, the talent, the skill, the way those horses are trained to be able to do that, it's impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
They did multiple sports. We love talking about people that do multiple sports. Football was obviously your best, ended up being your best sport. But how were you at basketball and baseball? Where did you line up in those things?
Yeah, so it's funny. I mean, I was always, I would say, a middle of the tier athlete in any age class I was in.
Yeah.
That I was never the fastest necessarily, one of the strongest probably, but like in basketball, I had no touch. Like I can't shoot a basketball to save my life. I play big man style, but I'm 6'2", so I can't really play big man style basketball. I can play defense, like to play defense.
Yeah.
Even when we go play pickup now, I just give the ball, dish it to somebody else. Like,
yeah.
I'll rebound and cover people. I like that part of basketball. So and then baseball, I really liked baseball, like playing catcher. But then as I got older and kept in baseball, it just felt so slow, like just so slow.
It is, unless you're pitching and catching every ball. There's a lot of downtime.
Yeah, there's a lot of downtime. So I played I didn't play basketball into junior high. I wrestled instead. I chose to wrestle, and the funny reason is, my fat stage in life, everybody goes through their fat stage. I was fat in 7th grade. Like, that's when I started hitting, if you want to call it a growth spurt. But I was like 135 pounds in 7th grade. I was like pudgy. And then my wife now says I have created body dysmorphia because of that. And so then my dad, talk to my dad. He grew up wrestling a little bit in junior high and high school. And he's like, why don't you wrestle? So then I just cleaned up my diet,
I got to like 115, wrestled 120 my first in 8th grade in junior high. Then 9th grade, I wrestled 132. So I was little. Like, I wasn't a big guy. And then, so I was a better wrestler. Probably football, obviously, was probably my best sport. And then wrestling was probably my most naturally gifted sport, mainly because I was strong.
No, that's awesome. I did everything that you could do. I was always competing. So 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I actually wrestled as well.
Yeah.
8th grade, I wrestled 105.
Yeah.
That's how big I was in 8th grade. Definitely first or second most difficult sport I ever did. It's individual.
Dude.
It's just you have your wrestling partner, and it's like, okay, put your forearm in the back of his neck, give him a half Nelson, and then you lay down and let him do it to you. Like, it is brutal.
It's brutal. And like, that was the whole thing. I was like, because I knew I wanted to go to college, even from an early age. I want to go to college. And the primary reason, and at that time, I wanted to either be a lawyer or I want to be a large animal vet at that stage. So I knew I wanted to go to college. And I didn't want my parents to have to pay for college, but I didn't want to wrestle in college. Because when I got to high school and saw that these college wrestlers, they were a whole other breed of psychopath.
Yeah.
Right? Like, these guys loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. They loved the grind. They loved the running. They loved the cutting weight. They loved that piece. And I was like, dude, I do not want to do that in college.
Yeah. Yeah, like they are, and even the wrestling coaches, like you walk around high school, they would want to grab you and wrestle. Like, hey man, I'm just trying to get the class. Like, it just was that, and I actually love that about the wrestling lifestyle. And those dudes they work hard. They're super dedicated. Such a tough sport. The other tough sport I did was swimming.
Oh,
I would drown. That was brutal. And I was a competitive swimmer until I was 14 years old.
That's probably great for you. Do you still swim now?
Yeah, actually, randomly, I saw an advertisement for a water polo team here in Cache Valley. I was like, maybe that is something I could do to combine swimming, some competitiveness, and give me an excuse to try and stay in shape. So,
And it's still a little easier on your joints.
Exactly.
It's like,
exactly. But yeah, a lot of respect for that. I'm glad I did the wrestling. I'm sure you got big benefits that went over to football, but maybe a tough basketball player. Like, I wasn't afraid of contact. I played football too. All those things, they translate into what ended up being my main sport.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people, young kids, like, I mean, basketball, unless you're like, to me, from what I've seen, like, unless you're just naturally gifted at it, like it's just something that's really hard to progress, especially if you don't have the height that goes with it. So I tell you, all kinds of young kids, go wrestle. Mm-hmm. Like, it helps you with your footwork, helps you with your self-confidence. You got to rely on yourself, like all of those things. I think it's a great sport for young kids.
Yeah, there's no bell-out. There's no saying, well, he didn't pass me the ball.
Right.
Or the coach didn't play me.
It's on you. I mean, you have to take accountability for it. And that's one thing I really liked about wrestling.
Yeah, a lot of respect for those guys. So that's awesome. Then you go into high school. What was your high school football career like? So were you I mean, obviously you were good. You went to Division I, but what kind of a standout were you? What was that like?
My high school career started like this. So in 9th grade, I was a student body president at West Point Junior High. So I had...
Why do we have so many high achievers? Like, everyone that we bring in, they're like, I'm student body president.
No.
They're like, I was on the roll.
I want to hear this. I say that to say this. I had a great friend group at West Point Junior High, and all those kids were going to Clearfield at the time. And this is the time they're building Syracuse High School. Mm-hmm. And so then, knowing that, like, we're all getting ready to go to high school, my dad comes to me and goes... He texted me and my brother Nick, and Nick was at 7th grade at this time when I was in 9th grade, and he goes, hey guys, it's really been pressed upon my heart, maybe we should send you guys to a Christian private school. And my parents were in a position they could do that, and so, we thought about it, prayed about it for a little while, and we decided, okay, we'll go to Layton Christian Academy is where we ended up. And they just got the coach, his name was Henry Luft. He played a few years in the league, played at University of Utah, and he was going to LCA to revamp the football program. My dad's like, you'll be able to play from a sophomore and get a lot of exposure. And this guy played in the NFL. And he's like, I didn't really have real aspirations of playing in the NFL, right? Like, I want to go to college, get my school paid for, and get an education. Well, anyway, so I decided, okay, let's go to LCA. So my sophomore year, go to LCA, meet a lot of great people. In the first 5 games of the season, Henry Lusk is there. We're 5-0. Things are going great. I'm starting. I'm playing safety and wide receiver. At the time, I was 140 pounds. Like, I was not. There was no weight room. I mean, they had one rack. They had like 4 dumbbells. Like it was just whatever. Like there was no lifting program at all.
So this time I passed you in height and weight. I'm 175 now at this point.
Yeah, I'm not. So then 5 games in the season, Henry Lusk and the head pastor at LCA have some sort of falling out. And Henry leaves. I mean, it's still to this day, I don't know what happened. I truthfully don't know what happened. And then Will Hawes took over. He was an assistant. He played at Weber State, and he ended up coaching there afterwards. And then we just didn't finish it. We won like 7 games, I think, that year. I would be second team All-American or second team All-State as a sophomore. And then I was battling at that point. Do I go play? Because at this point we lost the coach I went there to play for.
Yeah.
Do I go to play 5A? Like at this point I know I can play. Like I had like 11 interceptions or something. I mean, but it's a 1A football, so it wasn't. Yeah. You know.
It's still look.
But I knew I could play.
Yeah.
And so then I would like talk to my dad. He's like, I don't know, son, what do you think? I'm like, the hardest thing for me to do was like leave my teammates. Like I didn't want to leave my teammates hanging. And so I went back for my junior year and played my junior year there. I ended up pulling my groin and I ended up missing 6 games in my junior year at LCA, which was pretty upsetting, but it's one of those things like a groin, like it never got better. Like I couldn't break, I couldn't come out of my breaks, couldn't run.
Yeah.
And then after that, like after a disappointing junior season, I just said to my dad, I was like, I got to go play 5A football. Like if I'm going to get a legit shot, nobody's talking to me this time. You know. And I was always a good student, but no one was talking to me college-wise. And like, I don't want my parents to have to pay for school. Like that was my driving force.
Yeah.
So then I transfer to Clearfield, but really, so at that point, all the kids I grew up with at West Point, they went to Clearfield. And then Syracuse was built, and they went to Then it was split, and then half of them went to Syracuse, and some of them stayed at Clearfield.
Brutal.
Most of my friends went to Syracuse, so I tried to transfer to Syracuse, and then that got blocked by Clearfield. They said, no, you're in our boundary. And it was funny because my parents' house was closer to Syracuse High than Clearfield High. And the boundary wraps all the way to our neighborhood. We were the only neighborhood, we were the furthest north neighborhood Clearfield.
They knew the Vigils were there. They're like, this line goes a little farther this way.
If it comes back,
This one house, that's our boundary.
Yeah, if they come back, we want them. So went to Clearfield, had a disappointing senior season there. I think I made second team All-State, I think, in Clearfield too. We just didn't have the depth to be very competitive. We played everybody tough in the first half, and then we get beat in the second half.
Well,
and still, and at this point, Billy Plume was my head coach at Clearfield, and he played at University of Utah, I believe. And I was kind of getting recruited, talked to by some guys from Weber State, Southern Utah. Nobody from Utah State, nobody from Utah. And what happened was Kevin Clune was at Weber State, and then he got the job at Utah State when Gary got the job here. And he was talking about a scholarship and things like that at Weber State. And he's like, hey, we're thinking about maybe taking you. And this is still during football season. And then he gets a job at Utah State, and then he comes back. He's like, we don't got a scholarship for you. You can walk on basically if you want.
Yeah.
So then I go into wrestling season. I tear my meniscus in region championship match. And so I don't get to go wrestle at state. I know I'm going to be out for at least like 6 months because they did a full repair of my meniscus. Wow. So it was not good.
Yeah.
And so I called Clune up and I was like, hey, I want to walk on at Utah State. And he's like, okay, we'll give you a walk-on spot. And that's how I got there. And when I got there, they made me redshirt my first year, so I didn't get to participate with the team at all that first fall, which was awful. Nothing. Yeah. Like I was just going to school in the dorms. Like I was like, dude, why am I even bothering with this? Like I can just focus on school. And anyways, I stuck it out and then we continued. Yeah.
You're looking for the best place to grab yourself a pizza and, of course, entertainment? Look no further than Ruby's Pizzeria and Grill at 795 East, 1400 North. Ruby's Pizzeria and Grill has your salads, delicious pastas, creative pizzas, all that including watching some good games on TV with your buddies. Ruby's Pizzeria and Grill also has a Thursday through Saturday 9 p.m. to midnight menu. That's right, 9 p.m. to midnight, Thursday through Saturday, you get the delectable items. Our producer, Adam Lurcher, and myself went there. Well, Adam had the chicken fingers. I had this beautifully made gourmet hot dog with a delicious pretzel bun wrapped around it. Most importantly, Ruby's Pizzeria and Grill has the best customer service. Their employees were there to take good care of you, led by their manager, Thad Willis. So stop by Ruby's Pizzeria and Grill and let them know that the Unequal Podcast sent you there. 795 East, 1400 North in Logan.
And why? Why? Was there a point? Because I hang around a lot of people. I see a lot of people that they kind of expect immediate results and things like that. Then there gets to a point that it's a tipping point. And to me, it's like if you just stick it out a little bit longer, the whole dominoes might fall down. But they quit. Why did you not hit that point and stop? Why did you keep pushing forward?
You know, at that stage of my life, I was just focused. I was like, this is the only way I'm going to be able to get my school paid for. And I was like, my parents were paying for my school at that time, and I'm very fortunate, very blessed to be in a position that my parents could do that. I mean, if they couldn't, I would have went out and got the loans that I
The loans and the jobs and whatever it took.
I would have done whatever it took to get a opportunity to earn a scholarship. And so then I go through that first fall. I get to the weight room in the spring, right? And I'm 100 and, dude, I mean, I graduated high school at 170 pounds. 175 pounds. I wrestled 189 in high school. When I got to Utah State, I might have broke 200 pounds, maybe. My first thing Dave Scholl said to me, he was the assistant coach at the time.
Dave, great guy.
First thing he said to me was, "I've got gymnasts stronger than you." I walked away, and I was like, "Oh my God, dude, I've got so far to go." Because like in high school, I didn't even get a world weight program until I got to Clearfield, and that was, after my junior year.
Yeah.
Nobody taught me how to lift, nothing. And so, then I just started on this grind, and I was like, I played safety and wide receiver in high school. I thought to myself, I'm going to play safety in college. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I can run, I'm fast. Clint says, "You're not fast, you're going to play linebacker."
Yeah.
Okay, coach, that's what I'll do. And then started gaining weight, dude. So that's how I got to that transition. I wanted to basically prove to myself and to my family, I guess, that I can play at the next level, college level. And Clune taught me how to play linebacker. And then so going through that first redshirt year, just lifting, basically I got to like 200 pounds. And then going into my redshirt freshman year, I got some playing time a little bit, but it was like, it was just bad ball, dude. Because I'm the person, like, I want to do right by my coaches. I want to make them proud. I want to do things the right way. But I get so amped up about making a mistake. Like, I wouldn't even see a pulling guard, like the most simple thing at linebacker. Like, oh, there he goes, follow, make the play. And I couldn't see it, and I just couldn't slow the game down in my mind a lot. And just a lot of very fortunate events led to any success that I ever had. And So I tore my other knee, I think my redshirt year in spring ball. I tore my knee, had to get that meniscus fixed. Came back, played my redshirt freshman year, tore my shoulder, redshirt freshman year. I'm still a walk-on. I tore it at Wyoming. It got jammed up, torn, missed the rest of the season. Everybody's telling me, you need to do surgery. Your labrum, your rotator cuff's torn. It's not good. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, sitting around the locker room at this point, like, dude, he got a surgery. They're all in a brace. Neither one of them were playing. Like, their surgery didn't fix it for him.
Yeah.
So I just told him, I'm not going to do surgery. I'm gonna sit this one out. And this is where I come to the crux.
Okay.
So I'm sitting there. I'm still a walk-on. I'm in school. I'm taking, the math, the sciences, all those things to become a vet. I focused on, I want to be a large animal vet.
Right.
Utah State has a great vet.
They do. Yep.
And so I'm sitting there. I went home. It was like Sunday dinner or something. I'm talking to my dad, and I'm just like, Dad, I'm thinking about hanging him up. I'm thinking about not playing football anymore. My body is telling me, my shoulders hurt. I've had 2 knee surgeries at this point, just from, sports, whatever.
But you're 19 years old, 20 years old at this point.
Yeah. And he's like, you know what, son, let's just say a little prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically the prayer. He said, Lord God, if your will is for Zach to play football, then heal his shoulder and allow him to bring you glory that way. Amen. Amen. So I basically took that whole spring off going to my redshirt sophomore year. And I would do walkthroughs, and I was learning still. And at this point I started creating like a mental strength, I would almost say. And so when we got close to the spring game, I told Kevin Clement, I said, hey, I feel pretty good. Like, my shoulder's good, my knees feel good. Like, I can go out and play. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm sure. Like,
yeah,
I can go out and play. And at this point, after my redshirt freshman year, making all these mistakes and everything else, I said, you know what? I'm just going to cut it loose. Like, if I screw up, who cares? Fly around.
Awesome. I love that.
Go. And that's what I did. And so I went out spring game. I cut it loose. Played unbelievable. Had the best spring game up to that point I ever could have. Had more tackles than anybody. Played great. So then that led into camp, and it was me and Tavares McMillan fighting for the starting job.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning it from him, getting the full-time starter reps from redshirt sophomore on. And it was basically that me coming to the point in my career saying, everybody messes up. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to mess up flying around.
Yeah.
Freaking cracking people. And so that's how that transition kind of happened.
Well, it worked out really well. You started all 13 games for Utah State in your sophomore year. You were, I believe, 5th. Actually, you earned second-team All-WAC honors, 2nd on the team, 5th in conference, 84th in the country with 105 tackles. Had a heck of a year. That's one of the craziest seasons, too, 2012. Beat Utah home. And
I had to walk punt that game.
Yeah, you sure did. And then you guys ended up one of the more craziest regular seasons ever in program history at La Tech, a chance to clinch a share of the regular season title. You guys are up 43-14. You blow the lead. Or is it 41-14? You guys blow the lead. You got tied at 41-all. They go into overtime and pull off a win there. You had 10 tackles that game. Had a phenomenal game. Corin Williams had, I think, 200 and something total purpose yards. Chucky Keaton had a great game of 246 yards. Like, that year, it just seemed, I mean, usually it doesn't click for a sophomore that quickly, but it did for you, Zach. Like, it just seemed to click, and that helped the team as well.
Yeah, and I can't take credit for that, right? So, like, coming through all that, there's a lot we skipped, but, like, we had Bobby and we had Turb there before us, right? So they were there my redshirt freshman year, and then they had left. And they started that foundation of changing the culture there at Utah State and that winning culture. Like, it was always, seemed like in my redshirt freshman year, like, we didn't believe we could win. Like, there was never that belief that we could win.
Yeah.
And I think what changed was when I became a redshirt sophomore, then it was like there was a ton of walk-on guys that had earned scholarship at this point. At this point, they put me on scholarship after I earned the job going into my sophomore year. And so I was fortunate for that. I got put on scholarship. And then so it was like Jake Dowdy, Jamie Marcosian, Jaron Bencher. There's all these walk-on talent that brought this culture together. Like, we're blue-collar, we're gritty.
Yeah.
We're going to go out there and earn it. And we started changing that culture and believing we could win. And that's what changed, I think. So, like, as a sophomore, yeah, I was a leader from a position of a sophomore, like, would help with the defense and call people out on defense and, making calls and other things. But it was more of a cultural shift, I think, and everybody having a unified belief that we can win together, you guys. Like,
yeah.
And we had great coaches in that regard. We had Aranda was our defensive coordinator, who's now at
Baylor.
He's at Baylor, yeah, and he was phenomenal. Like, and he was a guy. He wasn't an MFer. Like, he wouldn't come down like that. He would just talk you through a situation. Like, when you see this is what we do. And he was just very methodical with his teaching, and he was great my sophomore year. And he taught me a lot. I learned a lot from him. We had Gary, we had Chucky. We just had a lot of good things going that sophomore year to start changing that culture.
And what was the biggest catalyst to change culture? Because I hear that word a lot, and sometimes I think it's used with people that have no idea how to create a culture.
To me,
what was the catalyst to start to change it?
So it wasn't any one guy, right? Like I said, it was a culmination of guys that were on that team that we would hold each other accountable. Mm-hmm. Like, if I screwed up, hey, I screwed up. That was my fault. That was my bad. Hey, my bad. And instead of pushing blame off, and like, you just saw that trickle down. Or like, so like, if I'm playing a linebacker and I get climbed to real fast, my nose guard would turn around like, dude, sorry, like, that was my bad. Like, no problem, dude. Like, get it next time.
Yeah.
Get it next time. But it was a total accountability of everybody being accountable to each other. And that's the thing Coach talked about all the time. Like, we can't hold you accountable. You got to hold each other accountable.
Right.
Well, that group of guys bought into that. And that's what made it special. It was a group, I would say it was a core of probably 10 guys that pushed that out to the rest of the team. And then we had great relationships, right? Like, yeah. I'm a Utah guy. I'm from Utah. But then we had guys from Florida, Texas, all over the country with different cultures. But it was like a brotherhood. Like, and not that we hung out every night or anything like that. But at practice, we're joking around, we're playing. Like, it was fun.
Yeah. No, on the team, on the field, in the practice, you guys were there. You found that brotherhood. Yeah, that's some of the funnest things about sports, especially college athletics, is you get people from all different walks of life, different backgrounds, and those guys that click and buy in and want to be a part of something there, create something special. At this time, how big are you now? How much do you weigh?
So in my sophomore year, I got to 215, 220 pounds-ish.
Okay, so you still weren't that big for a linebacker.
No, and that was the thing is, like, there's always, we need you 230 pounds, 240 pounds.
Yeah.
Because it was still like, but it was funny because that was also the transition when we really started seeing the spread. Oregon was freaking scoring a ton of points. And when we went to La Tech, that's what happened, right? Like, we were gassed. I remember I counted like 135 snaps that game.
Yeah.
Like, gassed.
Yeah.
And so it was just always funny looking back now, like, why did they ever want me at 240? Like, as long as I can run, that's what I need to be able to do.
There you go. And because I had those conversations, and look, I always respected the football players too, because you guys would come in and the way your body changed. And I would look, I'm 6'2", 6'3", and I look at a 6'2", 6'3" football player, look at what they got on their frame, and I'm going, I don't know how to put that on my frame. Dude, I don't know if that's possible.
The eating program. So if you I don't even know if you're allowed to say this anymore. I know you can't do it anymore. You'll get sued. But you used to do that. If you didn't make weight, you'd sit there and you drink a big pint of Gosler's chocolate milk on a scale until you threw up and made weight. Like you were making weight. So it was like every day, right? Like go home. Before you go to bed, you're eating 2 packages of ramen noodle. You're drinking a freaking Gosler milk before you go to bed. It's got who knows how many calories. Like just calories, calories. Full-time job.
Yeah. Thank you, Gosler Foods.
Yeah, thank you, Gosler.
For getting these guys to the weights they needed. No, because that was always fascinating. I look at these guys, and I had coaches up here at Utah State. Not all of them, but a couple that were like, and I'd Mark Uyama. I don't know if you knew.
I didn't.
So he went from Utah State to the 49ers.
Oh, wow.
And Dave Schultz took over after that. Yeah. There may have been someone in between, but I knew Schultz. So he was there when I was there a little bit.
Yeah.
But I had one coach like, hey, you got to get. I played a 185.
Yeah.
That was my playing time, and I had some coaches that just be like, you probably need to get to like 200 or something like that. I talked to Mark, Coach Uyama, like, hey, what do you think? He goes, look, do you get pushed around? I go, no. He goes, are you strong? I was a strong 185 basketball player. It's like, I don't get pushed around. He goes, the weight's a number, right? Strength. Are you strong enough? And then as I looked into you a little bit, there's obviously something that is unique, something that made you special. And I looked at your draft combine stuff. I think it said you tested out like the number 1 linebacker in like shuttle run and some of those things. Is that right?
I don't remember, dude, and this is the other thing. So after my senior year, right, like I thought, we talked briefly about the All-American stuff. I had a bunch of accolades. I was Mountain West MVP, defensive MVP, and all that stuff. And I thought, okay, I'm a shoe-in for the draft. Or not the draft, but like the combine. Getting right. Never got invited. And I was just like, whatever. But it was just...
Mountain West defensive player of the year doesn't get invited to the combine.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So, and then from that point, I worked for my agent and got in with a great trainer, Ryan Flaherty, who was the head trainer for Nike after he was training athletes. And, I got fast and stronger and did everything I needed to do. I ran a 4.640 or whatever it was. And the shuttle runs, I had great competitive shuttle times, bench press plenty. I did all the things, that you would think would be like, okay, this guy should be drafted. And I wasn't.
Former Skyview quarterback and Utah State football walk-on, Ted Stokes has established the #1 bankruptcy law firm in the state of Utah. Stokes Law's playbook is helping individuals and businesses overcome tough financial situations. If you're facing garnishment, repossession, foreclosure, or just overwhelming debt, give Stokes Law a call at 435-213-4771 or visit their website, stokesbankruptcy.com. Stokes Law is a debt relief agency and provides guidance under the United States Bankruptcy Code.
You work, and it's crazy. Then you forge your path. We talk more about in a minute, but at Utah State, you talked about just letting your hair back and not worrying about making mistakes and messing up. What helped you get so many tackles and set those all-time records for tackles and stuff? Was it your anticipation, your ability to read things, your quickness to get there? Like what was the big catalyst that changed?
I'll tell you, first and foremost, I said this while I was playing there, and I'll say it now while removed 10 years, basically.
Yeah.
We had a phenomenal defensive foot.
Yeah.
And they took full accountability. They knew what their job was, and their job was to allow us to scrape and play.
Mm-hmm.
And without them, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. And, we had some great guys. We had Travis Seafeld, we had Elvis, we had just a bunch of dogs up front. And they weren't the biggest guys, right? This is still Utah State. These weren't SEC All-Americans. These were guys that were gritty and were freaking downright tough, and they did a great job of keeping us free. That's first and foremost. Full credit to them. And then after that, I watched film. Like Kevin Clune taught me how to watch film. This is what we anticipate out of this formation. This is what you're going to get. And so my thing was anticipation. And then I was fortunate enough to play alongside Jake Dowdy, if you guys remember him. Jake Dowdy was a phenomenal linebacker.
Awesome. And by the way, the personalities on this team were so incredibly good.
Yeah.
Each of you had your own personality, some a little bit more reserved.
but a lot of you were like, I don't know if flamboyant would be the word, but just outgoing. And I think that's what you made this team and you guys so lovable too.
Yeah, we had great personalities. I mean, we had Nevin Lawson, and he was just a freaking dog as a corner.
I forgot about Nevin.
Dude, he played in the league for a long time.
What a team.
He was awesome. We had Brian Sweet. We had Frankie Cetera. Frankie Cetera's a walk-on also from Juan Diego. Smart, coaching football right now. He's one of the smartest defensive minds you can talk to. Yeah. We had great guys on the team. We had Kyler Fackrell. We had, my brother. We had a bunch of just awesome guys that came together. And kind of what we were joking about earlier, if we didn't have defensive points or defensive turnovers in a lot of those games, we wouldn't have had the seasons we had. Our defense was good.
Carry the load. No,
and that came from David Randett started it off, and then when we got Todd Orlando my senior year, Todd was a very aggressive guy, and he was awesome. And Todd and I had a great relationship, and he's like, "How do you want to do this? How do you want to?" Because at that point, the team was basically my team. Yeah, my defense is like, "How do you want to do this? Like, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to go get them. That's who we are." And I agreed with him on those points. So yeah, we just had a lot of great, like I said, personalities, and like we said, different walks of life. But we all came together, and it was a freaking awesome locker room.
It's amazing, and you guys ended up with a bowl win, the second ever in school history, next to the 1993 win in the Las Vegas Bowl. The late Brian Sweet, God rest his soul, had a pick in that game. Curran Williams went off. I think it was in the second half. It wasn't in one quarter he did all his damage. I can't remember. He had 2 long runs, and this thing was over just like in the snap of a finger. It was amazing.
Yeah.
The talent. I mean, the defense was the catalyst for your guys' success, but you had some dogs on the offensive side, Curran Williams and such, who made some huge plays and was just as valuable. I think Kerwin ended up in the league, did he?
Yeah, Kerwin played.
Yeah, I think with the Cardinals and such. I think he had a cup of coffee with the Seahawks as well.
Hey, you looking for something fun to do this summer? How about you go to Bridgeland Adventure Park, located in Garden City, Utah. Bridgeland Adventure Park has all sorts of adventures from ages 2 to 92. A 4-levels ropes course with 73 events, a giant swing, a 450-foot-long zip line, or get on a tube and head down a 350-foot slide. They're also accepting business corporate groups. You and your office want to get out of the daily grind, sick of staring at your computer for 8 hours a day? Well, bring the company over to Bridgeland Adventure Park. Enjoy some delicious food, a snow cone, a fun time with your coworkers, and lasting memories. Bridgeland Adventure Park is located at 722 South First Light Drive in Garden City, Utah. For more information and questions, go to blap.rocks. That's BLAP.rocks.